Is that okay? And Anil, you already know. So he will speak in Anil from Uttarakhand. So he and Marco knows him beforehand. So he'll speak in Hindi, his introduction and others. Before we come, आपको कितने बजे निकलना है श्रीधर जी?
My flight is at 6:50.
6:50. यहीं से जाएंगे ना?
I'm straight. I'm all packed. I just need to go there. That's
Okay.
So 4 would be good, no? Should it be or maybe 3:30?
Got
Be
it.
on the very safe side.
कितने बजे जाना है? 6:50 का 6:50.
6:50.
50. हाँ तो 7 बजे है तो 6:45 पहुँचना. कौन सी फ्लाइट है? एयर इंडिया.
9. Get late.
जेट लाइट तो वही है. T3.
T3 में.
कितने बजे जाना होगा सर आप?
I should be probably there by 5:30.
एक सवा घंटे पहले तो वहाँ पर होना चाहिए.
हाँ.
और
सवा
कभी 1 घंटा लगा लीजिए उस टाइम.
अच्छा तो 2 घंटा पहले.
No,
7
actually,
का 5. पौने 5.
no, T3. The metro goes at T3. So I just need to be dropped at a metro.
So you have the Khan Market station.
No, Khan Market will not go to metro.
No,
Jorbat.
he will have to take
No,
the.
I can do the jumping and all that.
That will Delhi and then.
I can do the jumping and all that, but
He had to drop at Kharagpur.
That's
खड़क वो स्टेट जाएगी.
हाँ हाँ.
खड़क सिंह मैच.
शिवाजी स्टेडियम में.
हाँ.
Yeah.
ठीक है तो वहीं आप छोड़ दीजिए.
4 would be good, no?
4 is good.
good enough.
4 तो नहीं, 4:45 भी ठीक है.
नहीं.
No, I don't want to.
4:15. We are already 1 hour late. So yesterday we had a meeting on foreign investment in retail trade, and morning we had a meeting on basically we wanted to have a meeting on redefining development, politics of natural resources, because people turned in huge numbers and they were very new people. So we changed the topic and made it into a general discussion on Indo-Pak relationship and South Asian perspective for democracy, and why people-to-people issues are important, and how militarism and peace issues, anti-nuclear, so those issues were discussed yesterday. And yesterday's meeting was organized under the auspices of our various networks other than the SEDET, which is organizing today's meeting. And purpose of this meeting is twofold. One is discussion amongst ourselves on various issues, and it has some friends who are coming for the first time to with a SEDET meeting, but they have been very senior activists. For example, Mr. Khan, he is from Mewat region, and he is part of the same movement which many of us in this room, Rajveer, myself and Subhaji, his member is present. One of the heads is, it's called Sampurn Kranti Manch, Total Revolution Platform, which gave us, we were given this new identity in 73-75 movement, which was led by Jayaprakash Narayan. So Praful Samantra, myself, Rajveer, Radhanath Pradhan, we all have participated and have been, most of us have been state guests for 20 months during that time. And Babulalji used to host JP, the icon figure of that movement. So they are himself and Devendra Sehrawat ji. आप भी उससे भी एसोसिएटेड है संपूर्ण क्रांति मंच से? नहीं, आपका नहीं है ना?
मैं Meetings attend.
meetings attend. He attends those meetings, but he is not organizationally involved with that. And on our meeting was on 4th, na? 4th, 5th. So on 4th morning, we had a long discussion how to join forces. They are working on the agriculture issues and to undo the historical. Colonel Sehrawat, he took premature retirement from military. He was colonel there. Colonel is a commanding post where you command. Same in your country?
Yeah.
So he has been very active in undoing the historical injustice which has been made 100 years ago and more. Especially this consciousness of urban-minded people not understanding the village, not understanding the importance of village commons and handing or acquiring land at a throwaway prices for a particular purpose and then just forgetting that purpose and using it for other purposes. So he has he has been working on it, so his paper is ready for that. Let's see if we get to discuss that. And then Ms. Khan has worked along with these issues. He has also worked on issues of injustice to minorities and Muslim minorities. And he has been a big resource person for, there was a committee set up by government. It was, kya naam tha? High Powered Committee on Status of Muslims. And one of our leaders, he is a public figure, Justice Rajinder Sachar. He comes to SADED meetings whenever requested. So he was chair of that committee, and in his area, Mr. Khan was one of the important resource persons in doing those surveys and to both the informants and the social scientists, and also direct communication for the conceptual perspective also. He had a chance to talk to various topmost people in that commission. So on 4th we had this meeting on the sidelines of meeting organized by Mr. Sridharan, that we must work together on Kisan issues particularly. So let me first complete the Kisan part of it before the cast of characters in this meeting. Sridhar is part of an alliance amongst people here. Only he and myself are part of that alliance. It's called Alliance for Holistic and Sustainable Agriculture, and he's it's of various groups and peasant organizations and individuals. आप आगे नहीं आए अभी भी, आई जाइए। आपको भी बोलना है ना, तो इसलिए लोगों को आपका चेहरा दिखना चाहिए।
तब आएंगे।
नहीं आइए यार, शर्मा क्यों रहे हो आप तो? So he's heading let me first give his general introduction. One is this member of this alliance, very leading sort of resource person. The other, he has a NGO which, in my understanding, he can explain better. It's like SADED in the sense that it does not believe in branding, and the tunnel, the name of the organization is Tunnel. Is it Malayalam word? What does it mean?
Shade, shadow, shade of a tree, like that.
Okay. Chaya. So, shade of a tree. So, you can imagine from the imagery that it's a dynamic thing. Shade is dynamic, depending on the light and how it is faced to the light. So, his ideas are very similar to what in SEDED we have been trying. That no branding, just of your organization, just taking up the issues, building alliances and taking campaigns, and campaigns if they are issue specific, as soon as the that issue is, for example, now he's national convener of GM Free India. In that, his understanding is that we don't have to brand it, we don't have to have a separate website for it, and we go and sensitize trade unions, political party leaders, media, peasant leaders, peasant organizations, and as soon as that work is over, the alliances are dissolved. It gets automatically dissolved. So it is not in the volunteer sector and social movement sector, branding and a kind of sibling rivalry. The more you are like, the more you agree, the more there is rivalry. So I don't know how it is there in Nordic region, but in our country, that's probably the biggest challenge we face. Maybe it comes from caste system, that every thing becomes like a community oriented, we become very patriotic to our organizational boundaries. So this context, in this context, it's almost like it's very unconventional position to take, that we don't want GM Food Coalition's branding, but we want that issue to be. For example, in Delhi, हम लोगों ने यहाँ पे with that we organized couple of meetings, and then we created an alliance, Delhi Alliance for Safe Food, in which we discuss all these risks of genetically modified foods and all that. And there various people have come together, and in that producing, compiling, enabling knowledge, plus then across the various elements of polity, NGOs, intellectuals, media persons, party political people, we try to approach them all together, and various mass leaders, not just peasants, but other mass leaders also, we try to interact with them, including, which is again unconventional, and all of us in this social movement sector don't have necessary agreement on that, but GM Food, this GM Free India has been doing that, approaching the especially it's his predecessor, who was public face, Devender Sharma, आप सब लोग जानते हैं, was approaching these religious sect leaders, gurus, like you have Art of Living, so they became part of it, and they huge number of petitions.
Yeah.
How many lakhs you said?
No, they're still committed to this.
Yeah, how many lakhs? First round,
2 lakh.
more than about 200,000 petitions were signed their followers, by their followers.
Excuse me, Richard, I was wondering, is there anybody who's able to simultaneously translate these two for
Yeah,
tournaments?
Rajendra is doing it.
Oh, are you? Sorry,
Yeah,
sorry.
yes.
Really so silent, I didn't even notice.
Yeah,
Sorry.
that was the first thing which was discussed. आप तो समझते हैं ना? Everybody else understands. Yeah, no, it's fine. It's important. So that's the GM's organizational perspective, and he's in the middle of building this campaign, and but I requested him, I explained him the context, so he kindly agreed. He is coming from a meeting from Bhopal. There was a coalition meeting, and now straight he has to go to the next meeting. He is in this because in this session of our Lok Sabha, which is lower house of Parliament, this bill was listed Biotechnology Regulatory Authority, which would have legitimized the inclusion of multinational seed companies, and Lord Monsanto and these organizations have been trying it greatly. So Kisani Sridhar in this sense is part of the larger movement for ecological Swaraj, in which at the moment focusing only on GM food, but actually located in the agriculture crisis and how the alternatives are sort of resurrected and adapted newer, because just resurrection is not possible, the context is changed. For example, floods. Earlier people knew how to negotiate with the floods. Now with the irrational bundings, the floods have become very virulent. So now you can't say just living with, resurrecting the tradition of negotiating with the flood in the old fashion is not enough. So these kinds of issues we are grappling through that alliance called ASHA, and I am hoping one of the trains are late. They have also come and their train was also late. They are coming straight from the station. So another friend who is co-convener of ASHA, that agricultural alliance, he is also likely to arrive. About the agriculture, as I told you, many of us were in jail in 75 to 77. So when Subhaji came out of jail, he first went to all the experimental farms in the country, and he has that sense. But now he is focusing more on the urban poor and the rural poor. वो rural वाले का आपके alliance का नाम क्या है? National Campaign Committee for Rural Workers. So Aruna Rai and the first, when the committee was formed, they involved all the left parties in that and other central trade unions who were organizing the rural workers. But it seems their livelihood and clout depends on the organized white collar class, which is 7%. So they are not much interested
7%.
of the working force. So, which is a huge number for them to have enough of clout, and so it's very difficult to organize the unorganized sector. So now he's organizing what in ILO language is now called informal sector. So he's leading couple of federations of those, and he's again of, he has been, there was a group now which has been merged in SADET's main work. It was called Marginalized Majority and Sustainability Issue. So he was leading that work, and he's Aurangabad based. He, like other Sridhar and these friends, most of the friends present here, not most, all except Anil as Uttarakhand team, all are contributing voluntarily in the SADET work. So, and some like Sridhar, their contribution is that they make us integral to their coalition, and so it's a kind of relationship based on mutuality, two different kinds of networks interfacing with each other, but with no day-to-day organizational responsibility. Neither they take in SADET nor SADET as organization takes in GM Free India. We are part of that, and whenever we are given specific, for example, the setting up of Delhi Alliance, I was sort of, what should I say, critical to that. So this is how the alliances are made and they are worked upon. About the, so I was telling you about Subhaji, that he has moved from agriculture to informal sector. It was earlier focusing only on non-landed peasants, wage workers in the agriculture sector, but now it's moved on to urban poor also. So it will be worthwhile that Colonel Sehrawat and Subhaji have a chance to interact with each other. You should exchange your emails and phone numbers and all that, because Colonel Sehrawat's organization is called roughly translated, rural community, Gramin Samaj. So nobody in voluntary sector refers to the community. It's a, reviving that kind of social imagination in political work is important. But with human rights, with the equality, because of caste, it became because in the traditional caste system, then if you revive the notion of community and its oneness, then the Dalit remains Dalit. So it has to be mediated by new notions of caste annihilation and those kinds of things. So Subhash Lomte was leader of many of the campaigns which Dalits took up in Maharashtra. One was changing the name of a university, and it was a big social movement kind of thing, in which entire, in terms of politics of symbolism, Dalit icon Ambedkar, Dalits in Maharashtra wanted that Marathwada University to be re-christian Ambedkar University. Now it has been done, and when this campaign started, he was the convener of that movement, and lot of present ruling party Dalit leaders were his volunteers. It was early 80s, Subhaji?
79 to 94.
79. It took so long.
15 years.
So, and so Subhashji, about agriculture, the other critical person is Rajveer Pawar. So we have been movement colleagues before SEDET, and he also he has recently set up an organization called Kisan Chopal, na? Kisan Panchayat, peasant पंचायत को क्या कहें, council, peasant council, and he himself is a victim of this land acquisition, and he lives near JNU in a village, and this also through our joint political work, this Kisan Panchayat has an overlap with SEDET, but it has only the spiritual, emotional and political relationship, no financial relationship or no formal organizational linkage. That is how we operate. So भैया कुछ कम ज़्यादा बोल दूँ तो करेक्ट कर देना, ये मत सोचना. तो आपका परिचय आप बाद में दे देंगे. Kamta Prasad ji is from Muzaffarpur, and our friends there, Shahid Kamal mentioned him about this meeting, and he has been part of similar efforts elsewhere. Anil, you know already, and Radhanath ji is a senior leader in the socialist movement. He is not in any party, but he has worked in the non-violent militant struggles as the leading figure, and now he is planning to write his reflections on socialism and the movement and its failures and future prospect. So he is sort of observing us.
I am not much to be introduced to.
Not
much to be introduced to.
No. No, because in this...
I feel myself lucky that I have been observing these things, and I find myself gradually involved.
Okay, very good.
But I want not to be involved. A great deal of involvement puts you in so much trouble.
Radhanath Pradhan. Next friend is Manohar Tiwari. He is from the eastern Bihar. He is also associated with various Gandhian civil society initiatives, including the apex body of Gandhians. It's called Sarv Seva Sangh. He is coming straight from their national convention in Madurai, and he has been instrumental in organizing the self-finance local and plus one of our colleague, Dr. Omkar Mittal, he mobilized finances for organizing SEDED meeting in his area around challenges posed by the river and flood management issues. And in that region, he has another senior who is the chair of Bihar chair of Harit Swaraj. Harit Swaraj is a network in the making on green issues, primarily as a result of SEDED work, but it's not SEDED's monopoly or branding. So he, along with one of his seniors, who is कितने साल के होंगे? 77? 177-year-old young man, Vidya Bhushan Singh. He is the chairperson of Bihar Harit Swaraj. He was to come to this meeting, but one of his colleagues is in hospital, so he could not come. So next is Praful Samantra. आप लोगों को भी इससे अलग से भी बात करनी चाहिए. Praful Samantra, in one line, is the public face of all the struggles going in Odisha. So the government thinks he is anti-development, but we all think that he is for inclusive development and not destructive development. So maybe he has so much to share and contribute. He visited Finland also in one of the partners meeting, but again he has no financial relationship with SEDED. It's only the political and emotional and spiritual. So he is an important figure in the overall country's this NAPM and these kinds of. You know about NAPM? National Alliance for People's Movement? Have you heard of Medha Patkar? Medha Patkar. Oh, okay. So all those who are critical of the present mode of development, for them NAPM offers one very important platform, and in Odisha he is the man sort of responsible for bringing a lot of groups in that.
Basically
All movements. Although conceptually he believes in constructive work also and party building also, but at the moment he has no constructive work organization. He has only one think tank, it's called Lodhi Academy, where all the movement people come and discuss these issues, and in his personal thing, he is part of all the movements there. Suman, you know, and Rajendra, you know. Mr. Jahid is... What? For others, yeah, sorry, very sorry. सुमन जी जो हैं वो अपने एक साथी थे नाथ यहाँ कांकेर में काम करते थे, उनकी कलीग हैं, और वैसे मुंह बोली बेटी भी हैं उनकी, और अभी यहाँ जो आई हैं ये सुमन, मार्कोलविला, सिरपा और राजेंद्र प्रसाद जी, ये सब लोग SEDED कैसे काम करता है इसका एक आत्म मूल्यांकन, सेल्फ असेसमेंट उसको बोलते हैं, उस टीम का ये हिस्सा है. अभी ये लोग आ रहे हैं उत्तराखंड से. उत्तराखंड में अपना एक एक्सपेरिमेंटल फॉर्म अनिल जोशी उसको देख रहे हैं, दो और साथियों के साथ. वहाँ पे गंगोली घाट गांव का क्या नाम है जहाँ पे फॉर्म है आपका?
जी वो गागरी गोल करके.
हाँ, तो वो इनसे भी ज़रा आप वो कर लीजिएगा, क्योंकि एक बार इनका फॉर्म सेट हो गया तो फिर ये देश में बाकी जगह पे इनका घूमने का प्लान है एक्सपेरिमेंटल फॉर्म्स में. तो सुमन जो है वो आदिवासी अंचल में काम करती हैं और शायद खुद भी आदिवासी है ना? हाँ, छत्तीसगढ़ से. राजेंद्र प्रसाद जी डेंजरस आदमी हैं, हिंदी समझते हैं और ऐसा दिखाते हैं कि नहीं समझते, तो अपन इनको गाली वाली नहीं दे सकते हैं। राजेंद्र प्रसाद जी जो है वहाँ का एक महत्वपूर्ण अलायंस है, नहीं तमिलनाडु का, उसके लीडर हैं और उस अलायंस से बाहर भी वॉलंटरी सेक्टर में एन इम्पॉर्टेंट लीडर देयर। और अभी इनका जो निजी एनजीओ है वो संकट में है, क्योंकि सरकार ने उसको नोटिस दे दिया है कि आप ये जो एंटी न्यूक्लियर मूवमेंट को सपोर्ट कर रहे हैं, ये पॉलिटिकल काम में भागीदारी है, तो आपका FCRA क्यों ना कैंसिल कर दिया जाए। तो अभी नोटिस आया और ये यहाँ आ गए, क्योंकि इनको भी जो फाउंडेशन,
मैंने भी 3 दिन पहले कुदन से
तो राजेंद्र जी जो हैं वो एनवायरनमेंट इश्यूज पे वहाँ के NGOs का इन्होंने बहुत अच्छा फेडरेशन बनाया है। और ये जो 40 वाला है ये तो एक छोटा हिस्सा है, बड़े फेडरेशंस के ये हिस्सा है। और वो 40 वाला इसलिए संदर्भ आया कि हिंदुस्तान में ये लोग जिस फाउंडेशन से हैं उस से 3 समूहों को मदद मिलती है। एक ये अपना CSDS वाला, सेडेड उसका नाम है, साउथ एशियन डायलॉग्स ऑन इकोलॉजिकल डेमोक्रेसी, और दूसरा नेशनल आदिवासी अलायंस जिससे सुमन है, उसमें 16 संगठन है। अभी कितने ग्रुप्स हैं? 21। तो उसमें 21 संगठन और NGOs हैं, और आपके यहाँ 40 40 organizations.
4 networks,
Huh.
but I have several others.
Okay, so 40 in all.
Yes.
तो उसमें 4 नेटवर्क हैं और बाकी संगठन हैं, इंडिविजुअल्स। और जाहिद भाई जो हैं ये भी छात्र युवा संघर्ष वाहिनी का नाम तो आप सब लोगों ने सुना है, तो ये आपके जात भाई हैं। संपूर्ण क्रांति अब नारा है, भावी इतिहास हमारा है। तो ये बहुत सीनियर साथी हैं और पहले भागलपुर में इन्होंने काम किया। ये परंपरा से ये चमड़े का काम जानते थे, लेकिन संगठन ने इनको मछुआरों को और बुनकरों को संगठित करने, गंगा मुक्ति आंदोलन वहाँ चला था, सॉरी सिरपा, there was a movement called Liberate Ganga from the landlordism. They like landlordism on the in the agriculture sector. There is landlordism of the rivers also, where rivers are controlled by landlords, and then fishing rights, all that. So they sort of successfully got that abolished legally in Bihar over a particular stretch in Bihar, Ganga. So during that time he moved on to organizing different segments of the village community, and he was particularly asked to organize the weaver community. At the moment he is focusing on 4 issues. He has moved from Bhagalpur to Nalanda district, which is district of the Chief Minister also. मूल घर कहाँ गया?
मूल घर तो नालंदा जिला ही था, लेकिन हम रहे भागलपुर में हमेशा, अब फिर हम नालंदा जिला में आ गए।
तो now one he is because this Ganga liberation was also gave them a environmental sensitivity, so he is also looking at the ponds, and जो अनुपम वाला काम है, आज भी खरे हैं तालाब, तो उसमें he is looking at the local ponds and all, but he has not been able to give much time to that work. He has recently shifted. Other things which simultaneously he is doing is organizing the बीड़ी को तो बीड़ी ही कहेंगे, बीड़ी वर्कर्स, बीड़ी is traditional cigarette, बीड़ी with tree leaf, it is made out of tree leaf, tobacco, yes. So he doesn't smoke, and he is very allergic to smoke, cigarette smoke, but he organizes the poor people who make that at the cost of their health because of livelihood. So that's the second thing, ponds, bidi and weavers, and fourth is this communal harmony between Hindus and Muslims particularly. So these are the four issues he has been working on, but he has been a kind of participant in this Nobody Should Sleep Hungry campaign, which we had initiated, but it's not kind of as big as some of the SEDET's campaign have become. So that's about the Conrad Shah. I'll come to that. Shyam Singh, he is from Uttarakhand and he is part of the Green Feature team in SEDET, and he has been with us for several years. Shyam, कितने साल से हो आप?
5 साल
5 years. So he is very good at not just documenting but then loading it to the computers. And he doesn't find enough time for his other responsibilities in SEDET because it organizes so many meetings on its own, and it sends Green Feature team to other meetings also, which we find important or interesting. For example, recently Delhi IIT organized, this will be of interest to most here, bamboo and sustainability, and how use of bamboo can be a substitute for steel, and how it is stronger, and climate crisis response, and all those issues were discussed. So they were there recording even the technical sessions. So Green Features archive is very rich. If you people have time, then hopefully at least people around these two tables will find enough of interesting unedited stuff. And if you find some donor, then other than Swimming Pool, because it's a small foundation, then we can get that stuff edited, and then it can be in public domain. So now the last, senior most amongst us is Mr. Babulal Sharma. He for a couple of years worked with SEDET also, and before joining the profession of in voluntary sector, he was a socialist activist. Then when did you join BPF?
68.
68, when we joined the socialist movement. He moved out of it and joined the Gandhians.
So you moved 65.
That's what I'm saying. That when we joined, he moved out of it to Gandhians. Aye. So he's now like this Kesan Chopal, sort of our joint work. Similarly, he is heading a main coordinator for one forum, which came out of SEDET, and no other organizations have fully owned it, so it is SEDET, still others own it. It's called
I
Global.
didn't approach anybody.
Huh?
I didn't approach anybody.
घबरा क्यों रहे हो?
I'm not घबराएंगे.
अरे ये शिकायत थोड़ी है, ये तो मैटर ऑफ फैक्ट बात है. So this is Global Forum, and another friend, his name is Anil Mishra. He is sort of helping. It came out of basically Finnish and Nordic interest in Gandhi, because your friend in Sweden, Tord Bear, told us that most of the Nordic, particularly Swedish environmental movements, had some link with the Gandhi and Gandhi's impact. So he wrote a full book, which then Marco read out chapters from that to various social science, one of the social science conference in India, Chaubeji wala jo hai. Then and in WSF we had all the events. We had one engagement with Gandhi. So as a follow-up of that, we have made this informal group. So yesterday's meeting also, which I discussed, about 5-6 groups who are co-sponsored, in which one was this, and most of none of these SEDET's initiated groups are registered. None of them have FCRA, so they are not in NGO definition, and SEDET itself is also not registered. It is dependent on the FCRA of CSDS, and but now we plan to register at least one organization, not to get FCRA but to have some kind of formal, because if there is no formalization of one kind of organization, at least one, most probably its name could be Harit Swaraj Dialogue, Green Swaraj Dialogue, because if you don't register at all, then it becomes almost dependent on an informal consultation between 2-3 people. It becomes a oligarchy dependent thing. So now we have worked for so many years, especially from Asian Social Forum onwards, as said it, and now there is enough of critical mass for us to consider formalizing, so that at least organizational, with a kind of sounding board kind of people, senior people from the movement, like it's a kind of mutual trust with Praful Samantra or with Subhash Lomte, but they have no formal mechanism to check me if I am going astray, or so there has to be at least the non-funded voluntary work. For that we need now something. That is the stage we have reached. This gentleman is responsible for educating me on climate crisis issues along with Soumya Datta. So he is the main organizational pillar of a coalition of which we are part. It's called Beyond Copenhagen. So when he
Copenhagen.
Beyond Copenhagen क्लाइमेट क्राइसिस पे ये ग्रुप है, 40 के करीब अपने लोग हैं, तो ये भी it's also informal, so he'll explain how it functions when we start our discussion, and I like each one of you, मेरे introduction में जो खास बात, whatever I have left, whatever critical to the process, people when they make their point after presentation, they should add that part. So the person sitting there is Chris Mary Kurian. You have been to Finland also, or Kenya? So she has been the SEDET's, she worked for a couple of months, years back, 5-6 साल पहले. About 10 years, in the beginning, she worked for a couple of months as a formal member of the team, but now she has been, as others, she has been there with us for now about 10 years, and her own interest is grassroots, understanding the grassroots dynamics of life basically, and बाकी वो खुद rest she'll tell herself. She has worked on urban poor issues extensively, and her ex-partner and they were working together on these issues, and he was also part of SEDET in the same non-financial sense, and he, without any honorarium, he wrote a book for us, edited a book, compiled whole thing on urban poor. It's you will get a copy of it, and others also. अपने पास जो सब मटेरियल है वो देख लीजिएगा और उसमें जो भी आपको चाहिए होगा. अजय, shall now everybody is introduced. So both of you introduce yourself, and Soumya will introduce himself, and also this climate crisis work, which through Beyond Copenhagen and through his own capacity it's a tremendous work he is doing. So let him speak about that, because he gets very angry if I make any statement which sounds like overstatement. So I don't take the risk. So why don't you, Sirpa, you will start, and after that, is it okay if we start with a presentation from Ajay about agriculture crisis, climate change, and how our network is functioning? And after Ajay, Sridharji, and then Soumya. In this order, we listen to them and we take down our questions after all the three, and they won't be, it won't be possible to make them before lunch, so we'll go after lunch also. Lunch is scheduled at 1:30.
After the introductions, before the presentations, can we have 5 minutes?
Yes, yes. Then you start, you three have to introduce yourself. And Marco, I would request, because he sort of, beyond what I have said, he knows little more than that, and he has his own view about this kind of cast of character. So I would like him to introduce the relevant part of Finnish activists. You know, Siemenko is not good enough to be introduced to these people. They are sort of core of what we are part. So they should be shared making of our relationship from 87 to now, in which Siemenko is just one part. Just brief, very, telegraphically, but brief. आसिफ जी, अपना इंट्रोडक्शन दे दीजिए।
मेरा नाम असित है, मैं सैनिक में रिसर्च
संस्कृत बोल रहा है। अरे ठीक से हिंदी में बताओ ना, लंबा।
मेरा नाम असित है और मैं रिसर्चर हूँ।
असित दास उड़ीसा के हैं। He has been with SEDED for long, but he has been in the movement for more than 2 decades. He was 10 years old-timer for a very premier this redefining development movement called Save Narmada campaign. And now also he is very active in all the, in his individual capacity, all the solidarity struggles which are for peasants and like Prafulji's all the struggles, he is also active in the solidarity groups in Delhi. So, Asit ji, now Shyam, के उनका नहीं इंट्रोडक्शन हुआ। सुनील है, सुनील is not with SEDED but with us for 2 साल हो गए आपको?
जी।
For 2 years, and he knows how to drive on Delhi roads. तो सिर्फा, you are, oh, ये छोटन दास हैं भैया, ये अपने बहुत अच्छा खाना बनाना जानते थे और इसी नाम पे ये अपने SEDED में आए 10 साल पहले, और फिर जो है इन्होंने अब तिजोरी पे कब्जा कर लिया अपना. So he is the chief accountant of SEDED now, and he knows all the software programs. So if you need services, Colonel sir, whenever you set up a mega NGO, then Mr. Das services are available.
And he will taken away by somebody else like you.
No.
He is permitted now.
No, he will not be taken.
Now I must know, this is my turn. Okay, hello everybody. My name is Sirpa Tapaninen, and I'm obviously from Finland. And I am